yourself. A merry little Christmas.
Okay, Vlogmas Day 4. I was about to say 2. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are enjoying my Vlogmas content. We're on day number 4. So today we are going to get into a interesting story time. So we're doing a story time. I'm sipping on some apple cider and gummy bears. Okay. So before I get into the story time, I just want to start off by saying, with this story, I advocate for everyone to be an advocate for their own health. So that's a big part of this story, because it could have. Anyways, we'll get into it. So we're going to go back in time. Well, like I said, please, please, please be an advocate for your own health. It does not matter what doctors say, what friends say, what family says. It doesn't matter what anyone says about how they feel about your symptoms or what's going on with you. Only you know what's normal and what's right with you. And if you feel like something is wrong, you need to speak up. Doesn't matter how many times you need to do that. Speak up until someone does something. So we're going to go back in time to, I had to put a couple things on my notepad so I didn't forget. So this is back in 2016. So if you guys don't know, I have 2 sons. One just turned 7 and one is 5. So 2 boys, Kai and Cam. So I'm working overnight at a retailer, and this particular day, November 19th, 2016. So this particular day, it wasn't, or night, obviously it was the middle of the night because I'm working overnight, 3rd shift. Shout out to the people who do the 3rd shift. If you're a 3rd shift worker, hit a like, okay? I know that life. I'm happy I'm not there anymore, but I know that life. So I was working, and I think I went on lunch. So it was lunchtime. This had to be like 2, because we went on lunch around 2 a.m. So I go on lunch, and I think I ate something, went into an office, and I went to take a nap. You know, when you're pregnant, you're sleepy all the time, you're tired all the time. So my thing was to hurry up and eat and then go to sleep so I can rest as much as I can for my hour lunch. So I go in the office, I'm laying down like this with my head on the desk, halfway asleep. All of a sudden, in the midst of my nap, okay, I feel fluid. So I'm sitting in my chair. I jump up. Obviously, I like pop up. If you've had a baby, you know what it feels like for your water to break, obviously. So I jump up, and immediately, like instantly, I'm scared because this is not my first pregnancy. So I know, and at the time I was 24 weeks pregnant. So I know obviously this is not normal. Something is wrong. What's going on? So I immediately run to the bathroom. I call my mom, and I tell her, like, I had fluid that, came out, and if you've had a baby, you know what amniotic fluid smells like. So it smelled like amniotic fluid. So I like tell her it was a puddle in the chair, whatever. So she tells me to call, obviously, the hospital to speak with the OB on call. And I call them, or did I call them first? I think I did. Or did I call my pastor? I don't know. I think I might have called my pastor first, my first lady, and had her pray with me. And then I think I called the hospital, or vice versa. But so call the hospital. Now, this is why I say you need to be an advocate for yourself, because the OB on call basically told me that it was involuntary pee. So I basically told her what happened, fluid. I'm sitting down. I mean, I was sleeping, and then I woke up and to like fluid, and she was saying, oh, well, a lot of pregnant women involuntarily pee on themselves. So, and I'm telling this lady, like, no, something is wrong. I have had a baby before. I didn't pee on myself. Like, I know what pee smells like, and I know what amniotic fluid smells like. I'm like, it smelled like amniotic fluid, and it was a puddle. Even if you do involuntary pee on yourself when you're pregnant, it's not going to be a puddle. Like, it's not going to be that much. It might be a little bit, and then you like run into the bathroom. So she basically told me, she was like, well, you can come in. Like, basically, like, it would be a waste of my time for me to come into the hospital to get checked. So, of course, I'm going to the hospital. So I called my husband to come pick me up, to take me to the hospital. And he didn't know what, he was half asleep, half annoyed, didn't know what was going on. So he comes, he has my other son, he picks me up, and by this time, like, I'm in tears because I'm like, something is wrong. Like, I know something is wrong because this should not be happening. Like, I'm only 24 weeks pregnant. I should not be, like, my water should not be breaking. So we drive to the hospital. They send us up to, well, first we went to the ER, and then they send us up to labor and delivery. And they have to now confirm that it actually is fluid. So I had to tell my story. I don't know how many times. I don't know how many doctors. And I keep telling them over and over again, like, I know that this was amniotic fluid and it was not pee. So I think we did 3 tests. The first test came back, I think, negative. The second one was inconclusive. And then when I spoke with another doctor, she came in my room and she's like asking me what happened, and I'm telling her the story, and I'm telling this lady, like, she's like, when you stood up, like, how much liquid was in, on the chair. And I'm like, it was a puddle. It was not pee. I'm like, I know the smell. I'm telling you, like, I know the smell of amniotic fluid. So they ran another test that kind of took a minute, and when she came back in, she's like, sure enough, it was amniotic fluid. See, and when I retell this story, I try not to get upset because it pisses me off that they didn't believe me. Had I not been an advocate for myself and pushed them, my son might not even have been here, because he wouldn't have had enough fluid inside for him inside. So that took a couple hours for them to confirm that it was fluid. And even though I was scared and I thought that maybe, something was wrong, I think my mind still wasn't wrapped around, like, how serious it was, because I'm over here making Facebook posts and telling my manager, like, oh yeah, I'll be at work tomorrow. And then, tomorrow came, and then I was like, oh, well, they want to keep me, a little bit longer, for another day. So I'll be at work the next day. The next day came, rolled around, like, I'm still in triage. That's where I was. I was in triage on a gurney. Like, I was pregnant, having to sleep on a gurney. One of the most uncomfortable things. And then I had to sleep up, sitting up straight, because they had me hooked up to the machine. Couldn't lay down. I think it took about, I think I had to sleep straight up for probably almost a month. We'll get to how long I had to stay in the hospital. So, that third day of me being in the hospital, a doctor comes in and she's like, yeah, so, we're going to keep you here until we deliver him. Until we deliver him in maybe 34 weeks. I'm 24 weeks. So I'm sitting here like counting how long I am now going to be at the hospital. So I spent Thanksgiving in the hospital, I spent Christmas in the hospital, and I spent New Year's in the hospital this year. I mean, that particular year. So Thanksgiving and Christmas 2016, and then New Year's 2017 I spent in the hospital. So she tells me that. So I'm in that room for, they move into another room like in triage, slightly bigger. I'm in that room for a couple of days, and then they finally get me over to I didn't go to labor and delivery because I wasn't delivering, but they moved me over to like the mother baby side, where after you have your baby, you know, you stay in your room for however many days. Since I was staying there long, like that was my house. That was my apartment until I delivered. Weeks and weeks later. So they moved me over there, and I ended up having to talk with the head doctor of the NICU because obviously he was going to be premature, born early, and their main thing was to keep him in as long as possible. So obviously I was on fluids constantly because what happened was he ended up rupturing his membrane, which ultimately happened with my oldest, but that ended up happening closer to when he was born. So he was only technically considered premature by an hour, my firstborn. But Cam, my secondborn, that ended up happening at 24 weeks. So I had to speak with the head doctor of the NICU, and he told me the things that I would have to do. I had to end up getting steroid shots and magnesium to kind of help his lungs and everything develop fast, just in case he had to come before that time. And it was a lot. It was a lot. But thankfully during this time we had a community, our church community, my kids' godparents that were there to help us. They took care of my oldest. They made sure they brought me up food and games and snacks, and they would bring me up Kai, obviously, so that he could visit, also with my husband, so that he would come up, you know, and sit with me and stay with me for however long. But once I moved over to the mother baby side, like I became homegirls with all of the nurses and the staff and the like head people of the women's side, because I was there so long. They would always come to my room and visit me. And then my OB, I love her, she's like my homegirl. She would just swing by towards the end of the night and be like, oh, what's going on, is everything good? Yeah, I was on hospital bed rest and on fluids and on constant monitoring. So they had to constantly monitor him. I think I got up to like walk around. I was trying to straighten my room up. My doctor came in like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just, she's like, no, go sit back down, go sit in the bed. You cannot be up. So I'm just like, oh, like I was in my room. I did not see outside, feel fresh air for like a month and a half. And so finally, one of the head directors, she was like, come on, I'm going to take you outside. They said I could take you out. I had ended up moving to intermittent monitoring. So instead of being monitored 24/7, like around the clock, I think I was monitored 1 hour every, I think 8 hours or so. I had to sit on the monitor for an hour. So she got a wheelchair and she pushed me around, which was really sweet. And I got to feel the sun and fresh air on me. But even through that process, we had a couple hiccups. I had some bleeding, and then they took away my intermittent monitoring, and I went back to 24-hour monitoring. Of course, I had to sleep up, And then, oh, my leg. And on one particular day or night, I had been in the hospital so long at this point that I knew how to find him on the little monitors, like that they strap around your stomach. I would just move it around, and that stuff is hooked up to the nurse's station so that they're tracking heartbeat and raw rate and stuff like that. So I was in the middle of sleeping, mind you. I love, like I said, killing, stealing, and thrilling. So I'm sleeping too. I think Snapped, and my husband brought up our Wii U so that I could play that. I moved in. I completely moved into my hospital room. I had my little candle wax melt warmers. I had braided my hair in there. My first lady brought me up a Christmas tree for Christmas time. We had it decorated in there. A whole, I had snacks in the little drawers under the couch where the dad would sleep. It looked like commissary. I had snacks, chips, cakes, all that. Perfumes and stuff, my lotions. My nurses used to come in it smells so good in here. You smell so good. Thank you. But, so back to it. So this particular night I was sleeping, and of course I had the monitor on me, and, everything was fine. And this nurse comes rushing in and abruptly wakes me up, and I'm like, what's going on? Now, one of the things I hate the most is when you don't answer. So she's looking at the screen, and I hear different beeps and sounds coming off or whatever, and I'm like, what's wrong? What's going on? So then she's looking, she's like, well, they'll tell you when you get it. So I'm like, no, what is wrong? She's like, well, we can't find him on the monitor. We don't hear his heartbeat. So then I'm just like, what? So then I have 10 people, doctors and nurses, rushing into my room, telling me to do all these different positions. They're trying to find him. They can't find him. They can't find a heartbeat. And then I hear the OB on call say, what did she say? She said, call them and tell them to get the OR ready. So I was about to have an emergency C-section. Terrified. And then, what did I do? I think I was on my hands and knees. I don't know what Cam was doing in there, but he just pops up on the screen heartbeat is fine. Finally, heartbeat is fine. And everybody in the room is like this, looking at the monitor. Now, so then they're staring at the monitor looking, and his heartbeat is fine. I don't know what he was doing in there. And so they're looking, and I'm like, okay, well, no, you can call him back and say it's fine. And it was like this. Everybody was out of my room. And I'm just sitting there traumatized. I think I had to call that night. My husband, he didn't stay that night. I had to call him and call my sister and tell them. I'm just they just left. I'm over here traumatized about. I thought that I was about to have an emergency C-section by myself. Craziness. And then I had this nurse I had ended up talking to. I had ended up talking to the head charge nurse and tell her this other nurse couldn't work on me. Because now I am a pretty relaxed person. As long as you have confidence in yourself and your job, I'm good. But this particular nurse, now my arms still are my veins. You can see the marks from my IV. Since I was staying in the hospital so long, I had to change my IV. They had to change my IV site every 36 hours. I think it was every 36 hours they had to change my IV. So my arms, my veins were shot. All 2.5 months in the hospital, veins were shot. So this particular nurse, she comes to just change my little IV site, and I should have known when she came in the room and didn't know how to flick the lights on. I should have been like, nope, you can't work on me. So she comes in and she didn't know how to turn on the light. Finally, she turns on the light. And she comes over. She's like starting to change my site. And she pulls the old needle out. And when she pulled the old needle out, when I say blood flung, thankfully, I don't have any type of disease or situation with my blood, but blood flung everywhere. So she starts using like a towel to try to clean it up. No, I even know you're not supposed to do that. And then when she goes to try and put the new needle in, her hands are shaking like this. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going, and I'm the type of person, when I'm getting shots, I don't like to look away. I need to look at what you're doing in order for it not to be painful for me. So her hands are shaking. So finally, I'm just like, no, I'm like, just stop. I'm like, can I speak to the head nurse? Because you should be confident in yourself. Even if you're nervous, you can't have your patient scared. I talked to the charge nurse or the head nurse, and I'm just like, well, I don't feel comfortable. So they had somebody else do it like this. My husband brought up my sweet baby to come see me on Thanksgiving. I was so sad. And then, but of course, I was happy to see him, and he was happy to see me. You know, time passes on, and of course, they're keeping track of Cam. I'm constantly losing fluid, so I'm having to constantly, have IV bags. They check on Cam. He's good. Christmas rolls around, and this year, 2016, was supposed to be Kai's first, my oldest, Kai's first, like, official, like, Christmas. And if you don't know, Christmas time, the holiday time, is my favorite time of year. So I was planning on doing it big for him. And this day, like actual Christmas day, my husband had to work, and so I was at the hospital by myself. I think I cried. I was so sad. I'm just like, it was not supposed to be like this. I had all these plans, but literally in a blink of an eye, things can change. So spent Christmas there. I think I decorated my door. I should have taken a picture. I decorated my door with like snowflakes. I had cut them out, and I know one of the OBs came. They were like keeping track. I think it's for like mental health, to make sure that you're okay. They're like, okay, she's doing this and she's doing that, so she's still in good spirits and everything. Then New Year's rolls around, and I spend New Year's in the hospital. My husband came up. He brought me some Welch's sparkling, and I think he spent the night that night, and we just kind of chilled out. And did he bring me some food? I think he brought me some. He probably did. And Welch's sparkling. So we chilled out. That was New Year's. Yay. Close to, I think when January hit, they made me a countdown, my nurses. So like I said, I had formed a relationship with all of my nurses. I was getting ultrasounds done every few days, every other day, every few days. I was getting my IV site changed like every 36 hours, and then something else done every however many hours. So it was a lot. It was definitely a lot. When January hit, we're ready. Like, I'm like, okay, this is the month. We're going to have him. And so my nurses made a little countdown sheet for me. And then I find out, I think what I remember, one of the head women asking me, did we have anything for him? And I was just like, well, I mean, we have some stuff, but a lot of that stuff was going to come later. I mean, I was not expecting to be in the hospital for like 2.5 months. This was completely off guard. I left work one day, never to return, basically, because, after you have a baby, well, me being in the hospital for as long as I was, then having him, and then being out on maternity leave, I was like gone for like almost a year. So anyway, to our surprise, they threw us a baby shower. So sweet. So they tell me, we're throwing you a baby shower. I had my husband, I think, no, they came with a, baby shower invite. Ooh, my throat. All this talking, and my apple cider is now cold. So they showed me the little invite that they had, that they were throwing me a baby shower. They had it all decorated. My OB was there, nurses were there, the few of the head ladies of that side was there, and they had all types of food and snacks and gifts. So that was much appreciated. We got so much stuff from them just doing that, just because, like, I've never had that happen before. But they're like, you've been such an amazing patient, you've been so positive. And of course nobody saw me cry or anything, but a lot of people are, I guess, mean or have attitude. But no, I just kind of roll with punches, and I wasn't taking my frustration out on anyone. So Kai, my husband, came. Well, I had to send him. I'm like, can you get me something halfway decent to wear? So he ran to the house a day or so before and got me something just like regular, but where I wouldn't have to wear my hospital gown to go over. And we ate and celebrated and took pictures and everything. And then countdown was still going. So each day they would change the page or pull the page down until we got to the last day. So the last day, husband, obviously he comes, and I want to say early on the 23rd, early in the morning, I think it was like 5 or 6, maybe 4, they come and get me, and they wheel me over to labor and delivery because now it is time. We have been in the hospital since November 19th. It is now January 23rd. The whole holiday season just gone, poof. But it's okay as long as I'm healthy and he is healthy. So 23rd, like maybe like 4 a.m. they wheel me over to the other side, of course. And at this point he was 34, Cam was 34 weeks. They give me Cytotec, which induces labor. Now with Kai, I had Pitocin. So Cytotec was something new for me. Thought I was going to go without an epidural, which I did, but I didn't, but I did. But we'll get into that in a second. So give me Cytotec. Obviously, through time, contractions start, and it kind of happened fast, but didn't really happen fast. It started off very slow, and then once the contractions started to come, they came like, so I had to tell the nurse that I want an epidural, because one of the things that I hate the most is that I feel like I was robbed of having just like a normal labor and delivery. Like when you think about, your contractions are starting, like, are those contractions? Okay, they are. Okay, we're timing them and we're here. We're going to call the hospital. They say, you can wait a little longer. You can come in and then you start, labor and delivery that way. I still kind of feel sad that I didn't have like a natural labor, and that it was something that had to be induced with medication. So I don't know what a true regular contraction feels like. I just know, because I'm not having no more kids, I just know what elevated contractions feel like with medication added onto them. And Pitocin contractions, Cytotec contractions, nope. And I had back labor, so all of my contractions, I could feel them in the front, but primarily it felt like a semi-truck was sitting on my back. So I asked for the epidural. They give me the epidural. The epidural doesn't work. Like, it kind of made my legs And with Kai, my first, the epidural worked completely. Like, it was magical. I didn't feel anything at all. With Cam, epidural did not work. After I told my OB, I'm like, am I gonna still be charged for the epidural? Because it did not work. I felt everything. So, like I said, they give me the epidural. It kind of makes me numb a little bit in my legs. I'm like, oh, it's gonna, come in. By that time, my OB had came in to check me, and I think I was like at a 4. And she was talking to the nurses and stuff. Of course, we had a full NICU team in there with us, and then we had obviously my doctor in there with us. She was talking to one of the nurses, and I'm like, I'm pushing and I can't stop. And she's like, no, you were just at a 4, you're fine. She comes to check me again, boom. She had to jump on the table. She had to jump on the table because I went from a 4 to fully dilated like this. The epidural didn't even have time to, I guess, take effect, or it just didn't, because I felt everything. The ring of fire, if you felt it, you know what it is. I felt every single thing. So, he is born. My little sweet baby Cam is born at 2:02 p.m. Ooh, brief intermission. I had to get myself some more apple cider. Oh, look at that. Now I'm afraid to drink it. Okay, well, I'm not. I'm going to burn my taste buds. I'm not going to do that. So, I'm going to let that cool down for a second, but I can keep talking about the story, or discussing the story. So, like I said, my sweet baby Cam was born at 2:02 p.m. And immediately I cried, obviously, because we didn't even get a chance to hold him. He came out and he was swiftly taken to the NICU. So, like I said, he was 34 weeks. And I think I remember a nurse, she was talking to me and telling me, I don't even remember what she was telling me. I think she said something about he's going to the NICU, and then once, my legs stopped being, they weren't numb, but they were kind of, I couldn't stand up. If you get an epidural, you're a fall risk. So until you can stand, it wears off, then you can walk. So, and I was just bawling, I was just crying, because I'm like, my baby, couldn't see him, he's just gone. So they take him to the NICU. I think it took a couple hours to work. I'm scared. Nope, I don't think it's, no, it's not ready yet. So, finally, when most of my numbness of my legs go away, and they take care of me, they push me over, my husband, my sister, my kids' godparents, they push me over to the NICU so that I can see Cam. And we go into the NICU, and nobody wants to see their child, their little baby that they just had, that's just he had to be on a feeding tube, and he had to have, the oxygen. He didn't have to be in the incubator, the whole little case that some babies can be in, but he was up under the heat lamps, and he was like a doll. He was so small. And I just remember just seeing him just being sad, because I was just in disbelief. And he kind of had a situation, obviously, I think it had to do with his lungs. He was So he couldn't, so that's how, like, how he was breathing when he was asleep on the heat lamp, or sleep under the heat lamp. So he was there. I ended up being discharged a couple days later, and he was in the NICU. And I remember being, first off, it's such a lonely feeling to leave a hospital and not have your baby after you just delivered a baby. I cried so much. The lady, she was telling me, as I was, the nurse, I'm not going to say lady, the nurse was telling me, everything they tell you when you're discharged, what you can do, what you can't do, and when you can drive and stuff like that. And in my head, this lady is like, oh, well, you can drive for however many days. I'm like, if you think that I'm leaving my child up here, you must lost your mind. Like, I will be back up here tomorrow. Of course, I didn't tell her that, but I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if you told me that I couldn't drive for another month. I will be up here tomorrow to see my kid, to see my baby. I will be up here tomorrow to see my baby. I'm not about to leave him up here. No. So they discharged me. We had to bring all of our, of course, we had all like our baby shower like, I had to do a whole like move out, like apartment. When I say this was my house for those 2.5 months, we had so much stuff. I had my husband bring up extra pillows, and I had blankets, and we had the game system. We had food and snacks and smell goods. We had to take the Christmas tree and the lights and the plant. So it took us a few rounds, or him, not us, because obviously I couldn't do all that. It took him a few rounds to get the stuff to the car. So we leave, and like I said, I was just quiet. So he decides to take me to dinner before we went to go pick up Kai. Ooh, I did not realize that this story was going to be this long. So he takes me to dinner. I cried the whole dinner. Like, I know that the waitress was probably just like, what is wrong with this girl? I went through spurts of slightly being okay and just bawling my eyes out. Like, I would be sitting here looking at the menu, and then I'd be like, yeah, talking, and then next thing you know, I was just bursting into tears. Then I would wipe my tears away, that would be for however long, and then I would slightly be okay, and I would just be talking to my husband, and then the next thing you know, I just burst out into tears. And then, so finished dinner. I don't think I ate too much anything, to tell you the truth. I think I ate too much anything. We finished dinner. We went to go pick up my medication from the pharmacy, and then we went to go pick up Kai, who was at church with our church family. And I think I cried more there. I just cried. That's all I could do. Ooh. God, that's still hot. I was happy to be out of the hospital, but I wanted my baby home with me. Well, this is what we're doing. So I go up to see Cam as often as I can. I used to sit up there for hours. Like, I would come in the middle of the night sometimes. I go check into the NICU, and I would just sit in the rocking chair with him on my on my chest, or like wrapped up in a blanket on my chest, and I would just rock, and I would sleep. Or they would come in, and they would he would get fed through his feeding tube, and I would just sit up there for hours, and I would leave, and I would come back again. And I would just sit up there for hours and hours. I did not want to leave him. I'm like, no, I will not leave him. And then I stayed close to the hospital. I'm just like, no, I am literally 5 minutes away. I will be here all the time. And all the NICU nurses and the head doctor was great, but I didn't want my child. I wanted him home. Like, we wanted him home. So eventually he graduated to where he didn't need his feeding tube anymore, and he could take bottles. So of course I was, well, even though he was on a feeding tube, I was pumping. So he was breastfed, so I would pump and I would bring milk up. Complete oversupplier. They told me at one point, like, he doesn't need any more milk. Like, he's good. We are completely full. We don't need you to bring up anymore. So he went to being able to nurse with like the small bottles, and then being able to nurse on me directly. And then one particular day, did I hear? I think I heard the head NICU doctor saying that he might be able to go home. And I'm just like, what? Like today? So this was like early in the morning. I had been there for a couple hours just holding him. And he was like, yeah, just go bring up his car seat. They had to do the car seat test, which if you don't know, I don't know exactly what they do, but I think they put the baby inside of their car seat, and I want to say they monitor their heart rate, because I think some babies' heart rate tend to drop or something like that when they're in the car seat. They're not ready to go home. So he was like, yeah, he might. I'm not saying that he will. Don't get your hopes up, but he might be able to go home today. He was able to go home. He spent about a week. Seemed like forever, but he spent about a week in the NICU. And that day, when he did the test and he passed, we got him dressed and we were able to take him home. We were just like, because it happened so fast, I wasn't expecting. I was thinking that he was going to have to stay in the NICU for a few weeks, but he was probably the breast milk. You know, breast milk is liquid gold. This is what I tell people, liquid gold. So, and it could have been also from the steroid shots that I took to help him develop. Who knows? God did what he needed to do to bring my baby home. So he was so tiny, just this little ball of baby, so small. But that is the full birth story of Cam, my youngest. So this is why I say that was a lot. Like every November, it comes up in my Facebook memories how, you know, the first time I was the November 19th when my husband rushed me to the emergency room, and all those emotions kind of flood back. So it is a lot, but every time I just look at him, I'm just like, you are a miracle. Like I tell him all the time, like, we wanted to see you, but mommy and daddy did not want to see you half baked. Okay, you were trying to come out like a half done loaf of bread. No. So please be an advocate for yourself, because I definitely feel like if I took that doctor's word, like, oh, I just peed on myself, like, no, we're fine, I would have continued to leak fluid because he ruptured his membrane. He would have had no fluid inside for him, and I probably would have ended up having a stillborn, because at that point it wouldn't have been a miscarriage. So like I said, I just get upset thinking about it, but we're not going to dwell on it. Please be an advocate for yourself. Don't let anyone tell you that you're crazy, that you're not right, when you know your body, okay? Especially women. And like I say, pregnancy is so commercialized now that people think, oh, well, everybody's been pregnant, and women go through pregnancy every day, and you're not considered disabled, and you're okay, like you're being the extreme. No, every woman's pregnancy is different, and people tend to forget that I am creating an entire human being, okay? That takes a lot from your body. Like, don't take it lightly what your body is doing. So definitely make your voice heard no matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's pregnancy, doesn't matter if you're feeling sick, doesn't matter what it is. If you have something that you feel like isn't right, make someone listen to you. Please, please make someone listen to you. Oh, I will say he progressed fine. He was a premature baby, so he was small. He had a little hearing situation and a weight situation. Gastroenterologist, is that what they're called? Look, I'm sorry if I said it wrong, but we ended up having to go to one of those specialists and getting with a nutritionist to kind of help him gain weight. And then with his ears, he couldn't hear for the first 4 months of his life, or maybe it was partial. He had fluid in his ear. So he is now a healthy, thriving 5-year-old. Work my nerves, drives me crazy, but I love him. He is my little miracle baby. So yeah, his birth story is definitely it's definitely a story just based off that situation. Us knowing that Kai, my firstborn, came early. He ended up, like I said, rupturing his membrane. We didn't find out until we went to a doctor's appointment, and I had to go right over to be delivered, induced early with him also. It just wasn't as early as Cam's. And then the same thing happening with Cam. We just decided that we are done having children. 2 is enough for us. We definitely don't want to go through that situation again. If we got pregnant and number one, I would automatically be, my OB said I would be considered high risk and automatically will be put on bed rest. I cannot will not sit on bed rest for 8 months. I just can't do that. Plus, I just kind of feel like that would be selfish of me. We are done. We are happy with the 2 that we have. So I think that is the end of this story time. It was a lot, but the ending was okay. God took care of us, okay? Prayed. We had so many people praying for us. I prayed so much. Prayer works. I was okay. Cam was okay. In the end. So I think that is all for this story. Vlogmas day 4. Okay? 4. I hope you guys are enjoying the content, and if you are, hit that like button, subscribe, leave me a comment, and tell me how was your birth story of your children, okay? Was it something that you love? Was it something that was traumatic for you? Was it easy going? Like, how was your birth story for your kid or children? And I am going to peace out. It is late. Everyone is asleep, and I'm like, let me come in my closet and let you guys in on this story. But I will catch you tomorrow for Vlogmas Day 5. And see you later. Bye.